Hello my dears, and welcome back to my corner of the internet. I'm Shannon, and today I have a impromptu last minute bonus book talk video to share with you guys. I'm filming this on a Friday night. I've already uploaded today's pre-planned book talk video, but this morning I got this particular book in the mail. I started reading it this afternoon. I plowed through the entire thing this afternoon and this evening, and I thought, let's just do it. Let's just film a second book talk video for today and upload it as soon as possible. So that's what we're doing, despite the fact that it's nighttime and the lighting's weird because normally I use natural lighting. But anyway, the book we're going to be talking about today is This Is Why I Hate You by ONISION. Now, let me just start this off by saying I'm not super familiar with ONISION as a creator. I know he's a creator here on YouTube. I often see his videos pop up in my recommended, or even more frequently than that, I see videos about him pop up in my recommended. I know that he's a fairly scandalous, controversial YouTuber, but other than that, I don't know a whole lot. A couple weeks ago or a couple months ago, I couldn't really tell you exactly when, I saw that a couple of book reviews popped up in my recommended on a book that ONISION had written. So I watched a bit of those reviews, and then I got out of them because I didn't want to hear too much. I wanted to kind of go do some research, find out how many books he'd written, and then review one for myself. I've reviewed books that YouTubers have written on this channel before, quite a few times in fact. So I'm just really drawn to finding out what kind of writers YouTubers are. So I did a bit of research. I saw the book reviews that I saw were for his first book, which was called Stones for Abigail. And I saw that he had written another book, one more recently, and it's this one, This Is Why I Hate You. And no reviews popped up for that one, so I thought, well, that's the one. That's the one I'm going to review. So here we are. To the people that regularly watch my book reviews, a lot of you, this isn't going to be a book for you. I can tell you that right off the bat. Mostly this review is just me satisfying my curiosity about what kind of book this would be and wanting to share with other people who might be curious. Now give it a listen, see if you think it might be for you, but just a warning, it might not be. So like I said, I have no feelings towards ONISION one way or the other. I wanted to go into this book pretty blind. I thought briefly about maybe checking into his channels, because I know he has a few, seeing what the videos were like, but in the end I thought, no, just go in blind. Let's make this about the book. So here we go. This Is Why I Hate You is about a young man named Arthur. He is 17 when the book starts. He's in high school. He lives with his father. Him and his father have a very, very tumultuous relationship. We don't really know why at the beginning. We're not told the why until the very end of the book. But we know that they butt heads. His father's very religious. Arthur is not. What Arthur is, however, is angry. He's a very angry young man with a lot of really dark and twisted thoughts floating around inside of his head. He has a girlfriend named Ashley. At one point he sees one of their peers touch her, like put his hand on her hip, and that prompts Arthur to later that day or the next day break that boy's arm. So he has a lot of violent thoughts and he has a lot of violent actions. From there we see Arthur begin to really long for a way out of the town where he lives. He wants to get away from his father. He decides that he's going to join the military, the Air Force, because he's heard Ashley's younger brother Thomas talk about how he wants to do that eventually. So Arthur, I keep wanting to say ONISION. So Arthur sees that as a way for him to get out. So he joins the military. He meets a girl that he really falls in love with, and her name is Corey. Him and his previous girlfriend Ashley, they've broken up when he's getting ready to leave because she's very upset by it, and he never wants to return to the town where his father lives, so that kind of creates an impasse for them. once he tells her that he's definitely leaving, she kind of cuts off all communication with him. So he goes to the army, he meets that girl named Corey, they fall in love. He gets deployed out to South Korea after basic training. She gets deployed somewhere else. While he's in South Korea, he meets a girl named Rachel, and he falls in love with her. All the while, there's still a lot of violence and darkness and things happening to and because of Arthur. There's a lot of fighting and pent up energy inside this kid, and he's 18 now, and there's just he doesn't have any healthy ways to get this anger and tension and stress and just everything built up inside of him out. So he channels it into things that are very violent. After a little while, Corey gets sent to where Rachel and Arthur are, and they kind of begin a three-way relationship after a bit, because my phone's just going off. Because what Arthur finds out about Corey is that she's a lesbian, which makes sense to him because when they were together, they had a really, really deep bond, but it never went beyond friendship. And that didn't really make a lot of sense to him because they were so connected on so many levels. So when she comes to where Arthur and Rachel are, they kind of begin a three-way relationship, kind of, where it's where Rachel is intimate with both Corey and Arthur. But Arthur and Corey are not. Soon after that, things really get wild, and Arthur has a run-in with one of his fellow military men, airmen, and he ends up, what starts it is he sees the man touching his girlfriend Rachel, and he just kind of blacks out, loses it, attacks the guy. The guy ends up losing an eye, and then the army, the one sergeant, he's really into it. Like, he's really into Arthur's violence. He's like, so many men are cowards. It's so great to have you around. You're not afraid. I can work with you. I can kind of mold you. And so Arthur gets to stay despite the fact that he blinded, essentially, one of his fellow airmen in one of his eyes. There's just a lot more violence, and then the whole thing comes to a head when one of the other airmen, as sort of retaliation for what Arthur did to him with his eye, he reports Corey as being gay so that she'll get discharged. And that's about to happen, but before it can, Arthur is really trying. I hesitate every time I'm going to say Arthur because ONISION is what I want to say. Anyway, Arthur, one night, as they're kind of getting closer and closer to Corey's dismissal date, a bunch of guys that are friends with the man who he ruined the eye of, they distract him outside of the dorms. The two girls go in. When they go in, there are a bunch of men waiting for them inside. They get attacked. One gets hit over the head. The other one is being sexually assaulted, or she's about to be sexually assaulted, when Arthur finally gets away and he comes inside and sees what's going on and loses it, as you would, and he ends up killing one of the men. He goes to kill the second man, which was the one whose eye he had taken, and then as he goes to work on the third man, it becomes obvious that the second man wasn't killed, and so he gets up and attacks Arthur, killing him. The end. So that's the basic storyline of the book. It's a very short book, as you can see. One thing that drove me crazy was that the pages aren't numbered. Why not, ONISION? Why aren't the pages numbered? I know I can tell from the book that it was self-published, which is fine. Self-publishing in this day and age is a really attractive option. You get full creative control. Things move along faster than if you're going through a traditional publishing house. I don't have anything against self-publishing, but if you're gonna do it, for God's sakes, number the pages and hire an editor. So now that I've told you kind of the gist of the story, let me get into my thoughts on the book itself. There's the page number thing. When I started reading the book today, very early on, I came across a word that wasn't spelled right. And that's just something that my eye will catch every time when I'm reading a book. Or if the word that's used in the sentence isn't the right word. Like if you're trying to say we, but you put me in or something like that. So what I did while I was reading was I put a sticky note at every place that I found a misspelled or misplaced word. And I mean, as you can see, there was a ton. The grammar was awful. I didn't even try to keep track of that. The grammar was so bad. There were commas where there shouldn't be commas. There weren't commas where there should be commas. It was a mess. But then you'd get to a part and it would be perfect. The grammar, the punctuation would be perfect, and you'd be like, oh, okay, cool. And then the next page it would be a mess again. All of those issues are things that could have easily been fixed by hiring an editor. If you're going to self-publish, hire an editor. Because I don't care how good of an editor you are personally, when you've been looking at something for however many days, weeks, months, years you've been writing your book, your eyes just aren't going to catch everything. They're just not, no matter how good you are at it. And it's just always good to have a second or third pair of eyes go over it. So aside from that, there were some scenes that really struck me as strange. So I'm going to talk about those scenes, and then I'll tell you what I liked about the book, because it's not all bad. I do have some good things to say as well. So what rubbed me the wrong way is there were a few scenes that seemed really weird to me, like cringy weird. One is early on in the book. The first half of the book is written as though it was written by a very angsty 12-year-old. Like, this whole, like, the world doesn't understand me, nobody understands me, I hate everybody stuff that preteens usually seem to go through. It was a lot of that. I didn't like that. And there's this one scene where Arthur is he's frustrated with his girlfriend. They're having lunch in the cafeteria and he wants her to leave her friends and come with him for a little bit, and she won't. She's ignoring him. And he hates it. He hates being ignored. So he kind of gets her away from them and he tells her, like, if you want to make this up to me, tomorrow you are going to come to school dressed as a goth. Because that's kind of his aesthetic, I guess. He's kind of a goth. So he wants her to dress as a goth in a way that would probably be uncomfortable for her or like weird for her, as a way for her to prove her loyalty to him. That's weird, right? That's not just me, that's weird. She does it and he loves it. He finds it very attractive. But that's a weird way to get someone to prove their loyalty to you, I feel like, by having them do something like that. It's weird. Anyway, the second thing was there's this one scene where him and that girlfriend, again, Ashley, are about to have sex for the first time, and she comes over and she's very, like, overrun with energy, and she tells him that she needs to run around the house a few times to burn off some energy before she can kind of be calm enough to do it. And I mean, I will say the character also finds this really weird. Like, Arthur finds it really weird that she has to do this. Like, why'd he write that? As, like, is he trying to give her, like, a quirky personality and that's a thing he thought up? Like, that's a really off-putting thing. Anyway, another thing, and this is the final sort of thing I'll drag, is so when we first meet Arthur, he's 17 years old. He's 18 when he dies, but he's 17 years old. And he has this weird obsession with impregnating his girlfriend. Do 17-year-old boys think like that? Like, yeah, 17-year-old boys are thinking about, you know, sex and whatnot, but are they thinking about impregnating and like how that's something very attractive to them, getting a woman pregnant, and like how he'd be totally fine with it? Like, I don't believe that teenage boys think like that. I don't know. Maybe I've never been a teenage boy. Maybe I'm wrong. If I am, let me know in the comments down below. What I will say about this book is, though the subject matter might be a little iffy to me, like it's not something that really interests me, the violent exploits of a teenage boy. The story is well told. It flows well. It's paced pretty well. The characters are pretty good. They're written pretty well. It, you know, despite the sort of some of the cringy characteristics they might have, like Ashley wanting to run around the house before she's intimate with Arthur, they're not written too badly. But, yeah, my favorite part is definitely the pacing and the way the story's told. I feel like ONISION could be a fairly adequate storyteller if he maybe wrote on something a little less this and something a little more something else. I think he has the potential to be a good storyteller because, like I said, the pacing, good. It's not even close to the worst book I've ever read. Some of that grammar stuff was hard to get through, though, I will say. I found myself on more than one occasion having to reread sentences because the lack of punctuation made it very difficult to understand what he was saying. Like, the words, I knew what all of the words meant individually, but without the punctuation, it took a second to see what he was trying to say, and I'm a pretty seasoned reader. But yeah, it was interesting to get to explore the writing of another YouTuber. It's something that I love to do. If you know of any other YouTubers that have written books that I haven't reviewed yet, let me know down below. I'd love to check their books out too. So yeah, hire an editor next time. That would help a lot. And I kind of get it because it's written as though it's a journal entry, so maybe the poor grammar was a choice. Because I haven't read the other book and I haven't fully watched any reviews because I wanted to go into this kind of blindly. Maybe the other book has perfect punctuation and grammar, and how poorly it's done in this was a choice to make it seem more like a journal. I don't know. I might be giving him a little too much credit there. Anyway, you guys, thank you so much for watching me and tiny Edgar Allan Poe back there. Really appreciate it. If you like this, leave a like. And I hope you'll also consider subscribing. That would help me a lot. So, yeah, until next time, which will probably be Monday, I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I will see you then. Bye!